Look at your hydrangea right now. Go ahead, I'll wait. Are the leaves spotted with brown? Are the flowers drooping even though you watered them this morning? Is there a strange white powder dusting the leaves? Or worse, a black sooty film that wipes off on your fingers? If you said yes to any of that, then there's something sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now. Something that costs less than $1 that can turn that struggling plant around faster than any expensive fertilizer you've ever bought. And here's the truth that most garden channels won't tell you straight. Hydrogen peroxide is not a miracle cure, and the way most people use it actually does more harm than good. But used correctly, at the right strength, on the right schedule, for the right problem, it's one of the most powerful tools you can keep in your shed. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly when to reach for it, exactly how much to mix, and exactly when to put the bottle down and walk away. So stay with me, because getting this wrong can cost you the whole plant. Part 1. What it actually does. So let's start with the thing nobody explains. Why hydrogen peroxide? Why not just water or some bottled tonic from the garden center? Here's the simple version. The hydrogen peroxide you have at home is mostly water with a little extra oxygen atom bonded on. When you write it out, water is H2O and hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. That's the same as water, but with one bonus oxygen riding along. And that extra oxygen atom is loosely attached. It wants to break free. The second that peroxide touches soil or a fungus or a colony of bacteria, that bonus oxygen rips loose and goes to work. That breaking loose moment is everything. When the oxygen tears away, it briefly becomes incredibly reactive, and reactive oxygen destroys the cell walls of fungus, bacteria, and the tiny pathogens that cause root rot. It's the same reason peroxide fizzes when you pour it on a cut. That fizzing is the oxygen attacking microbes. Your hydrangea's roots, when they're sitting in soggy, oxygen-starved soil, are basically suffocating, and the fungus that causes root rot thrives exactly in those low oxygen conditions. So when you pour diluted peroxide into that soil, two good things happen at once. The reactive oxygen kills the fungus, and what's left behind after the reaction is just plain water and a burst of oxygen pumped right into the soil your roots are gasping in. That's the whole magic. It's not a fertilizer. It doesn't feed the plant. It's a reset button. It kills what's harming the plant and reoxygenates the environment so the healthy roots can recover. Once you understand that, you understand exactly when it'll help you and exactly when it'll do nothing. Hold on to that idea, because it's about to make every step that follows make sense. Part 2. The 3 problems and 3 ratios. Now here's where almost everyone goes wrong. They read, spray your hydrangeas with hydrogen peroxide somewhere online, they grab the brown bottle, and they soak the entire plant, leaves, flowers, roots, all of it, with the same mix, and then they're confused when the leaves turn crispy and the blooms collapse. You have to match the strength to the problem. So let me give you 3 problems your hydrangea actually faces and the exact recipe for each one. The first problem is root rot. That's when your hydrangea is wilting even though the soil is wet. The lower leaves are yellowing, and if you dig down, you'd find mushy, dark, foul-smelling roots instead of firm white ones. This is the most common silent killer of hydrangeas, and it's the one peroxide was practically made for. For this, you're working in the soil, not on the leaves. Take your standard 3% hydrogen peroxide, that's the brown bottle from the pharmacy, the regular concentration everyone has, and mix 1 part peroxide to 4 parts water. So if you're using a cup of peroxide, add 4 cups of water. Pour that slowly around the base of the plant, soaking the root zone. The fizzing you might hear is the oxygen going after the rot. The second problem is fungus on the leaves and flowers, and this is where most hydrangea owners suffer. I'm talking about powdery mildew, that white dusty coating on the leaves, or the brown and purple leaf spots that spread after a humid week. For this, you need a much gentler mix, because now you're spraying living leaf tissue, and leaf tissue burns easily. Drop your ratio way down, 1 part 3% peroxide to 10 parts water, 1 cup of peroxide, 10 cups of water.
This goes in a spray bottle, and you mist the leaves until they're lightly coated, both the tops and especially the undersides where fungus hides. Gentle does it. You are not trying to drench the plant. You're laying down a thin film antifungal. The third problem is seed and cutting trouble, or sluggish new growth. This is for the gardeners propagating new hydrangeas or trying to give a freshly transplanted one a boost. Here, peroxide helps clear away the damping off fungus that kills young cuttings and helps oxygenate around tender new roots. For this, go even gentler. 1 teaspoon of 3% peroxide to 1 cup of water, used as a soil drench around the base just once. That's it. Young tissue is fragile, and more is not better here. 3 problems, 3 completely different strengths. Write them down. 1 to 4 for root rot in the soil, 1 to 10 for fungus on the leaves, and 1 teaspoon per cup for young plants. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember that the strength changes with the job.
Part 3. How to actually apply it. Okay, you've mixed the right ratio, now the application. Because the how matters almost as much as the what, and this is where I'm going to save you from the mistakes I made when I started. Start with timing of day, because this one's not optional. Never ever spray peroxide on your hydrangea leaves in the middle of a sunny afternoon. When droplets sit on a leaf in direct sun, they act like tiny magnifying glasses, and combined with the reactive oxygen, you will scorch the foliage. You'll see pale, bleached patches by the next morning. Spray in the early morning, just after sunrise, or in the evening once the sun is off the plant. The cooler air and the lack of direct light let the peroxide do its job and break down safely before the heat hits. Next, mix it fresh every single time. This is the mistake I see constantly. People mix up a big batch, leave it in the spray bottle for a week, and then wonder why it's not working. Hydrogen peroxide is unstable by nature. That's literally why it works. Once you dilute it and expose it to light and air, that bonus oxygen starts slipping away on its own. Within a day or two, your mix is basically just water. So mix only what you'll use that session and store your undiluted bottle in a cool, dark place. The original brown bottle exists specifically because the dark protects it from breaking down. For root rot, here's the sequence. First, if the soil is waterlogged, gently pull back some of the soggy topsoil to expose the root zone a little. You want the peroxide to actually reach the roots, not just sit on a crust on top. Then, pour your 1 to 4 mix slowly and evenly around the base, letting it soak in rather than running off. Do this once, then, and this is critical, leave the plant alone for a week. Let the soil dry out between treatments. The whole reason your roots rotted is too much moisture, so dumping liquid on them every day defeats the purpose. 1 treatment, wait a week, check the plant, and only repeat if you still see signs of decline. For the leaf fungus, with your 1 to 10 spray, coat the leaves in a light, even mist in the morning. Get the undersides. Then watch the plant over the next 3 to 4 days. If the mildew is retreating, you can repeat once more after a week. But you should be pairing this with airflow. Thin out crowded interior branches so air moves through the plant, because fungus loves stagnant, humid, crowded foliage, and no amount of peroxide will keep up if the conditions that caused it are still there. Peroxide treats the symptom, airflow treats the cause. And across all of this, do a patch test first. I mean it. Before you spray the whole plant, mist 1 or 2 leaves on a lower branch, then wait 24 hours. If those test leaves look fine the next day, no bleaching, no curling, then go ahead with the rest. Every hydrangea variety reacts a little differently, and that 1-day patch test has saved more plants than any single tip I can give you. Part 4. When not to use it. Now this is the part I promised, and it's the part that actually separates the gardeners who help their plants from the ones who accidentally kill them. There are 4 situations where you need to put the bottle down completely. The first is when your plant is perfectly healthy. I know that sounds obvious, but people get excited and start treating hydrangeas that have nothing wrong with them, thinking they're preventing problems. Here's the issue. That reactive oxygen doesn't only kill bad fungus. In the soil, it also harms the beneficial microbes and the good fungal networks that your hydrangea's roots actually depend on to absorb nutrients.
Dose healthy soil over and over, and you sterilize it, stripping out the very life that keeps your plant fed. Peroxide is a treatment, not a routine. If the plant isn't sick, leave it be. The second situation is when you've just fertilized or the plant is freshly stressed from transplanting and already wilting badly. Piling a peroxide treatment on top of an already shocked plant is too much at once. Let it settle, let it recover from the one stress before you introduce another. The third is when you're tempted to use the strong stuff. Somewhere out there, someone is selling 35% food-grade peroxide and telling you it's better. It is not better for you, and at that concentration, it is genuinely dangerous. It can burn your skin and will absolutely destroy plant tissue if you mismeasure by even a little. Stick with the plain 3% from the pharmacy. Every ratio I gave you today is built around 3%. Don't go chasing concentration thinking it'll work faster. It'll just work as a weapon against your plant. And the fourth situation, the big one, is when the real problem isn't fungus or rot at all. If your hydrangea leaves are yellowing in a specific pattern between the veins while the veins stay green, that's not a disease peroxide can fix. That's a nutrient issue, often iron or a soil pH problem, and peroxide will do absolutely nothing for it. If your blooms are the wrong color, that's soil chemistry, not a pathogen. Peroxide is a tool for one narrow category of problems, fungal and rot issues tied to microbes and low oxygen. Reaching for it when the problem is nutrition or pH is like taking cough medicine for a broken arm. So always identify what's actually wrong first. That single habit will make you a better gardener than any spray ever will.
Part 5. The payoff.
So let's bring it home. If your hydrangea is wilting in wet soil, you now know to drench the roots with a 1-to-4 mix and then leave it alone for a week. If it's got mildew or leaf spot, you know to mist a 1-to-10 solution in the cool morning, hit the undersides, and open up the airflow. And if it's a young plant or a fresh cutting, you know to go feather light, 1 teaspoon to a cup, just once. You know to mix it fresh, spray it out of direct sun, patch test first, and you know the 4 times to keep the bottle closed entirely. That's the truth about hydrangeas and hydrogen peroxide. It's not magic, it's not a daily tonic, and it's not a fix for everything. But for root rot and fungus, used the way I just showed you, it is genuinely one of the cheapest, fastest, most effective things you can reach for. The difference between it saving your plant and killing it comes down entirely to knowing what you're treating and at what strength. And now you do. Here's what I want you to do right now. Go look at your hydrangea one more time and figure out which of the 3 problems it actually has, or whether it's healthy and you should leave it alone. Then come down to the comments and tell me what you found and which ratio you're going to use. I read these, and I'll help you troubleshoot if you're not sure what you're looking at. If this saved you from making a mistake or saved a plant, do me one favor and hit that subscribe button. Take care of your garden, and I'll see you in the next one.